Are you thinking about buying a property here in Marbella or the Costa del Sol, but want to understand the legal side of things, the regulations, the documents, and everything else? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Chris Cassidy. This is the New Sun Network, and I am joined today by Elisa from Martínez-Echevarría Law. Elisa, welcome.
Hi, Chris.
Nice to have you. Yeah, I'm very well. So just tell me, Elisa, and the audience, who you are and what it is you do.
Hi, Chris. Very happy to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. Well, I'm Elisa. I'm a tax and corporate lawyer at Martínez-Echevarría Law Firm, the largest law firm of Andalucía. I give advice to a lot of international clients from different nationalities. My role at the law firm is to ensure that all the clients understand the Spanish legal framework and to ensure also that their plans is aligned with the Spanish legislation and with their country legislation. For me, it's very interesting with working with international clients because of their global mindset. And well, I'm very happy to work with all of them. And this is my main role at the law firm.
And the law firm has got offices. A lot of offices, right? They've got them throughout.
Yes, of course. We have a lot of offices in Spain, okay, but in the area, in the Costa del Sol, we have offices from Málaga to Sotogrande.
Wow.
So Málaga, Benalmádena, Fuengirola, Elviria, Puerto Banús, Estepona, and Manilva, and Sotogrande.
Awesome.
So it's very easy to find us.
And which one are you based at?
I'm based in the Marbella office at Puerto Banús.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
nice area.
Yeah, very nice area. But well, I have meetings in the different offices. So if the clients can decide in which office they prefer to meet. Yeah,
so if they're maybe if they've got a property or in Marbella, they can move to Marbella, Benalmádena.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the property is located in Benalmádena, we can meet there or wherever the clients prefer.
Awesome. So just going into the I mean, I'm a real estate company, right? So I sell properties. Many of my clients want to understand the legal process, you know, because especially international clients, it's a new world, a new environment here, different processes. Are you able just to give us a sort of guidelines of the process from a legal perspective about what is it that people need to do, maybe what documents they need and stuff, and so they can come to you prepared?
The main steps are the following. First step is to decide if the client is going to be during all the process here or abroad. So our recommendation is to grant a power of attorney in our behalf, just to avoid any problem and just to be empowered to do any of the steps on behalf of the client. So the first step is to grant a power of attorney. This power of attorney can be granted before a Spanish notary or in the country where the client lives. In this case, we always provide a draft in a double column document, Spanish and English normally. And the client signed this power of attorney in the notary of their country or in Spain if here. Once we have the power of attorney, we can start with the process, okay? The first step is to get the Spanish identification number, which is called the NIE. For this, we only need the power of attorney and a copy of the passport, duly signed by a notary. And if the notary is a foreign notary, it has to be apostilled. Okay, this is important. Once we have this tax identification number, we are ready to continue with the process. So normally when the client has decided about the property, the first step is to sign a reservation agreement. It is very important to have legal assistance since this very first moment, because we always include a clause in the reservation agreement which says that this reservation agreement is subject to a positive due diligence. Okay, so first step is to sign a reservation agreement that includes this clause. Why? Because if during the due diligence process that I'll explain now, appears an illegal problem, we can cancel this reservation agreement. Okay, so this is the first step. Once the reservation agreement is signed, we get the documents of the legal documents of the property. Okay? So we are in touch with the other side. If we are the buyers, we are in touch with the vendor's lawyer. He provides us with all the documents of the property, nota simple, the cadastral reference, all the council tax proof that has been paid, the community of owners certificate stating that there is no debt. Also, the license of first occupancy, licencia de primera ocupación, which is very important in Marbella.
Can you explain what that is for people who've
Yes, the license of first occupancy is a license that states that the property is completely legal and in accordance with the urban planning of the town hall. So this is very important. In most of cases, there is no problem because a majority of property have it, but due to some changes in the land planning in Marbella in the last years, there are some properties that doesn't have this license, and this is very important to be aware of this. Okay. So once we have these documents, we conduct a legal due diligence. In this due diligence, we explain everything about the property. Who is the owner? It complies with with the law, with the urban planning. If it has any mortgage or any debts, in this case, what we normally do is to withhold part of the price in order to pay these debts. So after we finalize with the due diligence and we do green light to the client, he would be in a position to sign the private purchase contract, the PPC, which is drafted by us. And in the PPC, the buyer normally has to pay a 10% of the price. And in this PPC, we state all the rules regarding the purchase. So, for example, we put what is the deadline to complete the transaction, what would be the methods for the payment, all these statements. And once the PPC is signed, we can go to the notary to grant the sale and purchase deed. This is very important because in other countries it is not necessary to go to the notary to sign any deed. For example, in the UK, the lawyers do the exchange of contract, but here it is essential to go to a notary. And as I said before, if the buyer is not here, we can go on its behalf with the power of attorney. So once the sale and purchase deed is granted, the transaction is completed, so the buyer now is the new owner of the property, but this deed has to be filed with the land registry. We, in our law firm, we do all the process. We also include the post-completion issues. For example, take the deed to the land registry. We also deal with all the suppliers to change, the ownership on the contract. We also deal with the pay of taxes regarding the purchase, because there are some taxes to pay. So we deal with all the process from the very beginning to the
right to the end when they get the keys. And what about? You mentioned there. Is there any differences you see between a resident? If you're buying a proper second-hand or a key-ready property, a resale, compared to a new development? Is there any differences there in the approach?
Yeah, it's quite different from a legal or real estate point of view, and for a tax point of view. From a real estate point of view, it would depend on the stage of the construction. But normally, if the buyer is buying an off-plan property, what we do is to sign, first of all, a reservation agreement. Then we sign the private purchase contract. Between this moment and the termination of the building, of the construction, the developer requires that some down payments are made. Okay, so in the private purchase contract, there are specified what are the following down payments that the buyer has to do until the very last moment in which the construction is finished.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously, because it could be a 2 years completion date.
Yeah.
And what about your due diligence? Because obviously your due diligence would be on the build, on the developer.
Yeah, in this case, the due diligence is more related to the license for the works regarding the ownership of the plot of land where the building is going to be constructed. And after the construction is finished, we go to the property to check that everything is correct, and we do a snagging list, which means that if the property has any defects, the developer has to solve them, and we include this in the sale and purchase deed.
Got you. Wow, so in terms of your involvement for a standard resale, it's a lot shorter. Yeah. Potentially you've got a long way.
Because a resale normally can take 1 month, 2 months at the latest if it necessary a mortgage loan. Yeah. But in an off-plan, it can take 2 years.
Right to the end.
Yeah.
And just in terms of any major pitfalls, any major issues that you see that normally crop up that can be avoided?
Well, for me the most important is to hire a proper real estate lawyer, which is essential from the very beginning. This is for me the most important. And another common mistake that I have seen most in the past year is that most of people thought that buying a property within a company is better than buying a property as a private person.
Okay.
This is important to say that it depends on the case, of course, but if you are buying a property for your own use, it definitely would be better to buy it as a private person than with a company. So it is not necessary to set up a company to buy a property, because in most of cases it doesn't have benefits. It could be cost consuming regarding taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ultimately though, go through that with your lawyer first to agree the best method to put that in. Yeah,
we normally talk with the client and request him, okay, what is the purpose? Why are you buying this property? Because, for example, if the client is buying several properties in order to rent them out, okay, in this case it would be okay to set up a company. Yeah. But if you are buying only one property for your own use, it doesn't make sense. It has a lot of costs, and from a tax perspective, it's not efficient.
Right, okay. Just from experience, is that some people, if they're buying a property, it's not a company, they're buying it in their own name, but maybe they want to also have their wife or their partner on that, then I think there's something about they've got to have, I can't remember the name for it, there's a technical name for it, but they've got to show the source of funds, they've got to split it.
Comunidad de bienes.
That's it.
Well, in this case, if you are buying a property with another person, with another partner, which is not your spouse, for example, you can set up a company. If the purpose is to rent the property out, if you are going to use it, it would be better both of you on your own name. And in this case, you are going to be 50-50, or the percentage you decide, owner of the property. It is not necessary to have a company, regardless you are buying with another person.
Because I think, is there something to do with like community of assets where, you mentioned if they go 50-50, because sometimes in the UK, let's just imagine I was buying a property, but if I wanted to put my partner's name on it, that was fine. She didn't have to put in half the money. But I think in Spain it's a little bit different.
In Spain, as I have explained, you can go directly and purchase the property without the necessity of create any entity or any company or whatever. You can go on your own name and buy the property on your own name on the percentage you decide. each of them put money on the percentage they would have in the property, and this would be filed with the land registry. So in the land registry, it would appear that you are the owner on a 70% and me are the owner on a 30%.
Which is different. It's different from the UK, that example, because a lot of the time it might just be, you know, either the man or the woman, they buy the property, but their partner's name is on it also, but they don't have to put any money into it.
Okay.
Which is different, right? So it's a different...
No, here each put money on proportion of their ownership.
And then they get that split, which is different. It's a different concept.
Yes, this is the UK law and the Spanish law are very different. Well, in all the areas, but also in the real estate. Also, as I have explained before, because of the notary, because in the UK it is not necessary to go to a notary. The process is much more smooth. It's not that rigid like in Spain. So it's more easy, let's say.
It's something I have the conversation about it. I'll ask my clients, are you buying it yourself as a company? Is there another name going on the property? And if they start to give any questions, I always say, but you need to maybe cover that with the lawyer. They will ask you anyway, but just have that in mind.
This is very important to ask a lawyer and to decide how to proceed. Because another important thing is that if, for example, one person signed the private purchase contract and then decide that he wants that the property is going to be in a company, but he has signed it as a private person, the PPC, there it would be like an assignment between he and the company, and taxes would arise. So it is important to be sure who is going to buy the property from the beginning, because changes can imply taxes.
And would you be able to maybe advise them on that at this, because they might have an idea, but it might not be the right way to go, or would you be able to help give them that guidance?
Yes, of course. We normally have a meeting with the clients and request what is the purpose, what is your personal circumstances, because it is important always to know what assets he has in their country, what is the structure of the business in the case they have a business. This structure is important to be known, to advise what is the best way to proceed. Yeah,
because I think sometimes the expectation is that I'll have the answers, and I'm like, I don't want to. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax advisor.
That's the thing, that normally they think that the real estate agents have the answers for all the questions, and it depends on the cases. Obviously, there are cases which everything is very easy. But there are some cases in which it is not easy to have a decision, and it has most of the times for buying normally villas or properties much more valuable. We normally do different scenarios. If you do that, you are going to pay that. If you are, so this is important.
I think, if it's someone coming to me saying, Chris, I want to buy a property myself in my own name, then it's easy, right? But when they start getting a bit more complex, I'm like, whoa, you need to speak to someone, so this is where I will hand them over to you.
Thank you.
It keeps my life easier. So Elisa, tell me about, obviously we're in 2025 now, is there any rule changes or anything coming up that people should be aware of who are listening or watching?
Yes, indeed. There are two main hot topics in these days. So the first one is the Golden Visa program.
Okay.
And the second one is the short-term rental. Let's start with the Golden Visa. The 2nd of January of this year, 2025, it has been published in the Spanish Gazette that the Golden Visa program is going to disappear, to be cancelled. This would take effect the 3rd of April of this year.
Wow.
So this is the last opportunity to apply for it, because until the 3rd of April it would be possible to apply for the Golden Visa program. This implies that people that already have the golden visa will continue, obviously, enjoying it,
Yes.
and they can obviously continue. And until the 3rd of April, all the requests would be resolved by the authorities. But from the 3rd of April, it would not be possible to apply anymore for the golden visa.
Yeah.
So
in the golden visa was basically if people were to invest or buy a property.
yes, the golden visa applies for those people who invest more than 500,000 euros in a property in Spain, or 1 million euros in a deposit, a cash deposit. It has been a very useful program because a lot of people come here to invest in the area. With this investment, they reach the visa to live here on a long-term basis. And the most interesting of the golden visa is that you can decide if you want to be tax resident in Spain or not. This is the most important thing between the golden visa and other kind of visas, because the other kind of visas automatically make you a Spanish tax resident. So this was a very nice aspect of the golden visa. You can have it, but you can continue being tax resident in your country of origin, which is very interesting. If you, for example, want to spend 3 months or 4 months in a year in Spain, and you continue being tax resident in your country. So, well, the 3rd of April would be the deadline, and it's the last opportunity to apply for them. So, of course, any listeners who have any intention to do it, it is better to do it now.
And do you think if anyone was to buy a property now, they would have the time?
Yes.
Maybe, but we're cutting it really fine.
Yes, I think the early February would be the latest.
The latest. So if people are wanting to get it, they've got to do it now. Obviously for 500,000 or more. And I mean, in terms of the impact though on that, which I mean, obviously the UK, right, because it's not part of Europe, but is it mainly outside of Europe that will be impacted by that?
Well, not because if you are European Union citizen, you can live in any country of the Schengen area. So it is not necessary to apply for the golden visa. But for example, it has been very useful for the UK citizen, US citizen, or Russian, Emirates, Kuwait, whatever. But for the European Union, it's not necessary. European Union citizens can live in Spain without any kind of visa.
But for those outside of Europe, it could be something they need to act on quite quickly, is what we're saying. You mentioned about the short term.
The second topic is the short-term rentals, It has been another new regarding this topic, the Organic Law 1-2025, which is a law regarding the proceedings at the courts, has included a mention regarding the horizontal law, which regulates the short-term rentals. So it states that from the 3rd of April also, all the owners who want to have a license for rent their property out in a short-term rental need a express consent of the community of owners where the property is located. This express consent needs a 3/5 majority. Until the 3rd of April, you can apply for the license without consent of the community of owners, but from the 3rd of April, you would need express consent from the community of owners.
And is that broad? Is that everywhere in Andalucía?
This is a national law, so it applies to all Spain.
All of Spain.
And well, each town hall has the option to include any special requirements apart from this. But this criteria applies for all the national territory.
So we could see some changes then happening. I mean, because for me, I'm thinking obviously as a real estate agent, I'm thinking about maybe the change in demand, or maybe the things that buyers might need to consider when they're buying that? Because a lot of people, they like to buy a property to live in, but they like to rent it out when they're not using it. How is that going? How do you see that being an impact?
We always, in our due diligence, we always include the provision regarding the short-term rental.
Okay.
We always analyze the bylaw of the community of owners, and we analyze if this activity is forbidden or not in the community of owners, because as you know, there are some community of owners that have already forbidden this activity.
Yeah.
So we always include this in our due diligence, and we always recommend our clients to request the license. Although you don't want to use it, at this moment, in our opinion, it is better to have it.
To have it.
Because if you have it, they cannot remove it.
I would imagine, right, if you're going to buy a property in like an older residential area, in my mind, it feels like they might not want it.
That's the thing. There are a lot of people, or some people, who get their license and then vote against the short-term rentals in the community, because they don't want to have more competence. There are some community of owners that are done is to increase the community fees for those owners who has rental
that. Because they're operating it as a business, I suppose. So.
Yeah. So because they think that probably they are using, for example, the swimming pool or whatever, much more than other people.
I suppose that makes sense.
It makes sense. It is okay. I'm not forbidden the activity, but you are paying more.
So it all depends on the community then. Each community, it's up to them to make the decision.
Yeah.
And they can vote against, they can vote for, or they can vote for but with certain caveats.
Yeah.
Potentially.
With a majority of 3/5.
3/5. And then I'm just imagining the practicalities of that, because some of the communities are very political.
Yeah.
And the way, it's a group of people who own properties, but some communities are different from others, and it just depends on the people. And
it is not easy.
It's not easy.
It is not easy to apply. Yeah.
That's the thing. But I'm just wondering. Let's just imagine we're after the 23rd of April. I buy a property. I then apply for it. So it would then go to what? Would it then go to the community after the application, and then they have to have a meeting?
Yeah,
I would imagine,
to approve it. What I can imagine is that all the communities during this year, 2025, I can imagine that they, in their annual meeting, they put this issue as a point of the meeting, and then decide how to do.
It's interesting. But even on that, then let's just imagine their meetings are on I don't know, they have their meetings on March. It comes to the 23rd of April. You might need to wait until the
next
following
one.
March.
Yeah.
But again, it depends, I suppose, on it. Some people might just do the votes quickly.
I can imagine that you can force the community to do another meeting to decide it, because you cannot be stopped by this.
Yeah. Here's a question as well. I mean, obviously, imagine a community has got 200 properties, right? There's 200 houses, but only 100 people respond to this, because not everyone responds to things, right? People can't be bothered sometimes. But let's just imagine half responded. Would it be the 3/5 of the half, or the whole amount?
This is a very specific question. There is a minimum quorum that I think this is the half of the community of owners, and then from this quorum, the 3/5
of the voters, basically. That makes sense, because I know especially if there's a lot of people who are investors. It's an investment property. Sometimes they don't get the emails, they don't get the correspondence, so they don't reply.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. Okay, so we've got an issue potentially there, but I have seen as well, there's some new developments that are building specifically for rentals.
Yeah. Well, this case is different.
Yeah.
Because this kind of buildings are not considered residential.
Okay.
These are considered rental building or whatever. So in this case, obviously, the community of owners are going to agree with this.
Yes.
So it's not going to be any discussion.
Yeah, so obviously in that scenario, you're probably going to be safe.
Yeah, in this case, it is safe. It is completely safe.
Yeah.
If you want to do it in this kind of buildings, you have the certainty that you can do it.
Got you. So when we're talking about communities and voting against things, I immediately think about blocks of apartments or like big communities. But what about like standalone villas? If you buy a villa, and I think you should do what you want with the villa. It's your villa. But
the same law applies for this kind of complex, okay? And the same majority applies also. Obviously, this kind of urbanizations, well, it depends, but I think it is more common that they forbid this kind of activity because of privacy or whatever. But obviously the same law applies, so they have to have a meeting of the owners and decide how to proceed.
It'll be interesting to see where it's going to go, because it just feels like if you own a villa, it's got a front door, it's got this private pool, you're not annoying. It's you should be able to do with that what you want.
I think it is much more for a matter of privacy probably, or this kind of issues.
I think so. Yeah, it's interesting. So the golden visa and the short-term
this
rentals
has been the main topics in the last week.
I would imagine it's keeping you quite busy leading up to that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite busy months for these two things. So
what would you recommend for people who are maybe considering, buying an investment property based on what we now know, or maybe we don't quite know? What would you recommend they should do?
To do it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
To avoid any uncertainty, because if you buy a property now and you apply for the license and you get it before the 3rd of April, you are safe. You can do the short-term rental.
Yeah.
But after the 3rd of April, it would depend on the owner's decision.
But there is some risk there.
Yeah, there is some risk. Yeah.
Yeah, and even with all the help of the lawyers, we still can't
Obviously,
quite guarantee.
the help of the lawyer is necessary, because what I can imagine is that after the 3rd of April, what we would do is in our due diligence, we include the analysis of the bylaw of the community, and we say, okay, the community has approved the activity, yes or no.
Right. Okay. So you'd be able to look at it at that point in time.
In the bylaws of the community.
But obviously that could change.
Yes,
down the line.
They can change. If the community of owners have a meeting next week and they forbidden the short-term rentals, and you don't have the license, you have a problem.
Okay, that's interesting times. Elisa, thank you for going through all this information. There's been a lot to process.
Yes,
it's, the big things for me is I think we understand now why it's important to get a legal team in, the notary, get the power of attorney, you guys do the due diligence, and some of the tax implications, but also the golden visa issue and the short-term rental issue. So a lot of processing for me to do. I think I need to get my clients to act faster on making the purchase, getting the purchase through, but also getting that short-term license through as well. But listen, thank you for coming.
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. Have a nice day.